Is Emma Ashford, a research fellow in defense and foreign policy at the Cato Institute, a Washington, D.C. think tank. Emma, welcome to our program. You believe the president's decision, and I'm quoting here, was the right thing for the wrong reasons. Explain to us what you mean by that.
Well, perhaps that's not quite the right way to put it. It's the right thing to do. It's probably for the right reasons in the long run, but the way that the president is doing it is very slipshod, haphazard, far too hasty, and it could end up putting U.S. troops in danger.
Well, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo in Cairo said there isn't any confusion. There's absolutely no contradiction when it comes to U.S.-Syria policy. But a lot of U.S. allies, Emma, were caught off guard. I mean, there was the president's tweet in December about, U.S. troops going to withdraw now. Then there were conditions, then there were no conditions. Then there were comments about ISIS being defeated, and then maybe ISIS was not defeated. So which is it, and what can you tell us about the potential timetable?
It's not clear. It would be helpful if officials like the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, like John Bolton, the National Security Advisor, weren't going around giving speeches that said, oh, the president didn't really mean what he said in his tweet, we're not withdrawing from Syria. Whereas as far as we know, the Defense Department says they have been instructed to withdraw from Syria, and it's going to happen. The administration itself doesn't seem to know its own mind on this question. It's not surprising that U.S. allies can't figure it out.
What is the role of U.S. troops in Syria?
They were mostly there engaged in counter-ISIL operations. And now that that campaign is largely wound up, they really haven't had much of another role to fill in that conflict. They don't really have other goals to be pursuing there.
But is there a symbolic significance to having U.S. troops in Syria?
Perhaps. There's certainly a significance to having U.S. troops there engaged with groups like the Kurds that we worked with on the anti-ISIS coalition, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the U.S. military should stay there indefinitely. It just means that we need to find diplomatic methods of trying to resolve the Syrian conflict moving forward.
John Bolton's trip to Turkey wasn't exactly didn't go exactly as planned. President Erdogan didn't even meet with him, called U.S. proposals for protecting the Kurds absolutely unacceptable. How much of a strain has this issue put on the relationship between the United States and its key ally in the region, Turkey?
Well, let's be honest, that relationship has been strained for many years now. It's not just the U.S. cooperating with the Kurds inside Syria, it's a lot of things. Growing authoritarianism inside Turkey, Erdogan's overtures to Russia, to China, to these other states. So the U.S.-Turkey relationship has been bad for quite some time. This is really just another step in that process.
And what about your concerns about ISIS or ISIL making some kind of comeback? Still pockets of resistance in parts of Syria.
There are still some small pockets of ISIS inside Syria, but the question, if we're going to ask whether U.S. troops should stay there, is whether the troops are necessary to stay there for the safety of the United States, whether it's in American interests for U.S. troops to stay there indefinitely. And small pockets of ISIS simply don't pose that big a threat to the United States. It's not in our interests for those troops to stay there forever.
All right, we'll leave it there. Emma Ashford, thank you.